Sucheta Rawal, welcome to the Sauce of Life.
Thank you, Derek. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So, the Sauce of Life is about people who have taken their life's experiences and turned them into ingredients that they use to feed others. It's truly about how do you take what you've experienced in life and give back. With that being said, please, Sucheta, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Derek, again. My name is Sucheta Rawal. I'm originally from India, born and raised. And I moved to Atlanta when I was 17 years old and went to school for finance because in Indian culture, there are mainly three fields of study that you pursue. You can either become a doctor, engineer, or worst case, investment banker. So I picked the worst case scenario, went to study for finance, got my master's degree, and went to work in investment banking. I was good at it. I made good money in it, but I realized that that's not where my true passion was. I was always interested in people, travel, food, culture, and all that is great. But as we are taught in our society, is you travel for a vacation once a year when you work hard enough and you save enough money to go. And that's not the kind of life I envisioned for myself to be going on a holiday once a year. I really was interested in meeting people throughout the year and not being sitting at my desk 10 hours a day thinking about where I'm going to go next. So, through a whole series of, I would say, luck, hard work, or interest and perseverance, I found some way of exiting from the corporate world to becoming a full time food and travel writer. And that is a real job. Yes, it is not a made up. People still ask me, that sounds like my dream job, but it actually does exist. So I have traveled to over 100 countries. I work full time writing about where I'm going, what I'm eating. And I write currently, I contribute to National Geographic, Travel and Leisure, Time Magazine, Photos, Travel, bunch of digital. And then also, I have two print columns here in Atlanta, where I live, that I write about food. And then I write a series of children's books about my cat, who is here at my desk. You'll see him at some point. But they are all true stories based on where I have traveled to and actual characters I met, but catering to a younger audience. And then I also run a nonprofit, which is called Go Eat Give. And it is started as a blog, but it evolved into a nonprofit because I really wanted to connect people with more meaningful experiences when they travel, where they can give back to the communities that they visit and not just be an everyday tourist who just takes from the destinations. So that's just I guess, a smaller snapshot of everything I'm doing right now to get you started, Derek.
Well, listen, that's a lot to go off there. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank
So,
you.
the thing that stood out to me most, just you've done something that most people don't typically have the fortitude to do, which is your parents set you out on a basic direction. If I recall correctly, you said doctor, engineer, or
Hmm.
financial advisor, financial services,
Hmm.
or investment banker. Sorry, that's what
Yeah.
you said, investment banking. And you realized that that wasn't your path. Although you went and you became an investment banker and you had that success and you had your corporate life essentially set out or mapped out for you, you decided that wasn't your path. And the most impressive thing about it is that you made that choice and actually shifted into finding out what your passion truly is. How was that process for you? And what was there a catalyst that made you decide, you know what, this is where I'm going to stay?
Initially, I did not have any vision for what that path would look like, or even if that path was an option for me. It was, I just remember having this uneasiness when I would be in my regular job. I remember days I would come in Monday morning to work And the first thing I would do is read the dining section of the newspaper. And, not the finance section, but the dining section. And then I would be like, oh, I wish I could do that, because I love reading it, and I'm a really good critic too. So I sent an email to the writer of that dining section, and I said, hey, I just want to pick on your brains. How did you get this position? What you do? And can I take you out for lunch sometime? And he wrote back to me right away, and he asked for $1,000 donation to his favorite charity. And I'm like, I don't think I want to do that. but but it was really like being curious about something that exists that I'm interested in. So that was the first step. And then I started going to other writers and saying, hey, can I take you out for lunch? I have no clue about how somebody becomes a writer, especially a writer in the dining and travel space, and I would like to learn. And some people did agree for me to take them out to lunch, and they started sharing how they got there. Then they recommended I go to certain conferences and perhaps have a deeper knowledge of how the business works. And I started doing that. So just exploring on my own, out of my using my free time and my own resources, and going to conferences, talking to people, dabbling with some local publications. Can I write something for you over the weekend? So it was just really like trying. And I never knew that that's something that would evolve into a career, but it was something that made me happy on a daily basis. And so I would have done it as a hobby as long as, I had a career and interests. But then the hobby snowballed into something over time that I could actually quit my corporate job and say, yes, I can do this full time now, something that I really believe in and I'm passionate about. And I wake up every day feeling like I'm living my purpose.
Wow. You just continue to surprise me. It takes an amazing amount of courage to do what you've done. Um, I'm a life coach, and there are so many people that wish that they had the chutzpah that you have
Mhm.
to go after something that they desire, even to explore it to the levels that you have, to say, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on myself. What do you
Mhm.
think your courage originated? And we're going to get into all the accomplishments and everything, the accolades for your life, but just what do you think that courage originates in you?
I think that comes from a deep sense of n- wanting to make a change, because I think a lot of people, and you must have seen this too, are very unhappy, especially in their day to day jobs. They do it because it pays the bill, because it is easy to rely on. It does require no change or not risk taking. And so you continue in that momentum. But they ignore that deep inside the spirit is not fulfilled, or they're not happy. And for me, my spirit has always been a guiding factor. For if I'm not really feeling today that I had my best day ever, my best life ever, then I don't think I can continue on this way, because it's over time it slowly kills your spirit. And there were clues from my life at that point when I had my corporate job. My health was suffering. I was overeating, or I was venting a lot more, just complaining about my work or my coworkers. So I could see myself turning into this person who I did not want to be. And the courage came from, let me explore what's out there. Let me explore what makes me feel good. And it was not really, again, a career choice. It was more like, okay, let me do things that continue to make me feel happy. And it just evolved into a career choice. But I think I would have kept searching for what is out there that connects with my spirit and my happiness and the purpose. In the Japanese philosophy, there is a word for it, ikagai, which means when you've found something that is fulfills your purpose, makes you money, and is also a career option that helps others. So I feel like, I was looking for my ikigai, and I did find it over time. It wasn't easy, it wasn't over time, but it took maybe 5 years. And during that time, it was a very uneasy state of being where you're working your job because that's what you meant to do. And then you're coming home and trying other things and saying, oh, let me dabble into this and see where that goes.
So you've just been a life explorer in all aspects, and it's beautiful. There's so much wisdom that comes out of your words for the person who has the ears and the heart to actually hear what you're saying there. And I'm very proud of that. When I watched one of your TEDx's yesterday, you were talking about Japan. You were talking about walking into the mountains, hiking in silence. Was that the first time that you decided to shut out the noise of the world and connect with spirit or God or universe, however you define it? Was that the first time, or is that something that you've a practice that you've visited several times?
Derek, that was actually the first time where I was told to be quiet. And, our society does not promote someone to be in silence, especially when you're around others. It seems almost as you don't have much to contribute if you're too quiet. And in this case, when I came on the Yamabushi retreat, I was told that for the next 5 days, you're not allowed to speak anything except for hi, which means yes. And if the master tells you something, we are going this way or we're starting at this time, just basic communication, all you said was hi. And no phones, so no talking on the phone, no texting, no social media, no going online, no television, no radio, no reading. So it's really disconnecting yourself in every communication possible. So the only thing you can do is talk to yourself or listen to the sounds of nature. And for us specifically, the purpose of that experience was to shut yourself down to where you no longer having a human like experience, but more of a person who has passed and now you're just a spirit. So you want to stop all the experiences that tell you that you have pain, you have hunger, you are feeling anxious or uneasy. Because if imagine if you could control all those other little experiences who are distracting you through the day, all you focus is your inner voice.
Wow. Did this silence drive you crazy, or did you find some clarity in it? That could not have been easy to essentially go cold turkey and move away from all of the noise. And I agree with you. I feel that we live in a world of distraction where every
Mhm.
corporate entity is trying to figure out how can they grab your attention. And that's the one of the greatest currencies that we have, is because where your attention goes, your energy flows. And so for you, how was that experience of letting go and going within?
For me, it wasn't that very difficult to not speak because I was still experiencing a new place and a new experience. Every morning we would wake up at the crack of dawn and we would go hike through the forests, through the mountains of Japan. And for me, even looking at a new scenery and feeling that it's a conversation I'm having with nature and the surroundings. So it doesn't feel like I've just because I'm not speaking using my words and my vocal cords doesn't mean that I'm not speaking. It just feels a different way of communicating. So I think that's why also a reason that people travel is when you are traveling to a new place, you're in a different environment, and that automatically opens your mind to and makes you feel good. That wow, I'm in a new environment. I'm looking at this mountain or a lake or this town, and all the things that you probably have in your city or where you live you don't appreciate, but you do so much more because you're in a new environment. You've gone on a holiday, and now even like a little uh, door looks so much prettier than it would be back home. or you start taking pictures of flowers because, oh, these are flowers on my trip to Cancun versus, flowers in my backyard in Atlanta. So it just, the whole perception of when you are in a new place, it makes you feel like your energy is much higher and you're enjoying it and you're here disconnected from your mundane routine.
Yeah, beautiful. Let me add just a crazy question is do you travel in your mind before you physically travel? Like, have you visited the place before you've arrived physically to that place?
That's a very interesting question. I'm not sure. I do try to do some research on the places that I'm going to visit, especially in terms of, of course, how to prepare for it, um, the landscapes, the climate, and all that. But I try not to overload my brain with what to expect because I want it to be a new experience, a fresh experience. And same thing when I go to a restaurant for the first time. If I'm doing a review about it, I don't read any other reviews before I go. It's because I don't want to be uh, tainted by what other people have already said. I don't want to order the things that they've already written about. I want to have my own fresh experience and create my own, um, I guess, my own perception of it. And then when I come back and I write my notes, then I will see what other people wrote about it. What did they have to say? Like my counterpart writers who have been to the same restaurant. And then I can say, oh, I don't agree with that. Or, yeah, I felt very similar about this.
Oh, well, I look forward to the day where you come to my restaurant. Come try it. Um, how has that experience been for you, being able to travel and experience all of these different cultures and culinary adventures? Are you an adventurous person culinarily, or do you have certain things that you just stay away from? Like, I can't eat that. No, that's not me.
I try to be as open minded as possible, and I will not judge people who eat certain moving things. Uh, but as somebody who is a big animal lover, I just can't make myself eat a lot of meat items. I will taste if the chef offered something and they prepared it with love, I will taste it. But I tend to stay away from meat. I'm not vegan or vegetarian, but it's just my personal preference. So I'm not like, you know, being like super experimental about weird foods, bizarre foods, all that. But I appreciate and I ask people, the things that they do eat, how does it come from their background, their culture, and how it evolved into it. So it's more important for me to learn about the cultural significance of those ingredients than to judge them just based on our palates.
Beautiful. You seem like a person who exists in gratitude. That's just the energy that I get off you, that vibe. You said that you started Go Eat Give.
Mhm.
And that last word is of those is the most important for me. I have so many people that talk about travel and they belong to travel agencies or travel groups and different things. And there are people that want to go eat and experience different foods, but you made it a point to focus on giving. And earlier, if I heard you correctly, you said that you, in part, you want to give back to the communities that you go to instead of just taking away from. You seek to give back. Where does that giving heart originate, and what does that do for the nourishment of your soul?
Yeah, Derek, that's a great question. And it goes back to my childhood. When I was growing up in India, my grandmother raised me, and she was a social worker, not by career, just as a volunteer. Her family did not allow her to go out and work in for money, so she made her full time life commitment about serving others, and she founded a lot of organizations to help women and children and underserved communities. And I would go with her to all the places that she went to volunteer her time with. And it was those, just witnessing her in action and also participating as a child, it kind of instilled those values in me that you always give back to the community. And it's not something you do once a year or every quarter or with your company on every Saturday. It was just a part of your life. You did it just the way you eat your breakfast, and you go pick up your kids from school, and you do incorporate some sort of a giving back during your daily life. And so it, and I never thought about it as, I need to, when I came to the US, that I need to do something. It was just, I was in college, I was part of many groups, I volunteered where it was needed, I was part of organizations and volunteering my time as a leader. So it just felt a natural way to live your life. And when I started traveling, I would do a lot of volunteer work when I traveled abroad. And it was the whole experience of what you're describing, your friends who are traveling. Sometimes it often ends up being you get on a bus, you go all around the city, you take pictures of all the important monuments, and you eat in the restaurants that were recommended in the guidebook. And then you come back with the exact same experience that your neighbor had when they went to the same city. So it's like a copy paste model. You come
Right.
back with the same photos, actually. It's just that you've replaced yourself with the other family, but it's the same place, the same backdrops. And I thought that way of traveling is very repetitive. And if I'm going to be traveling to over 100 countries, I don't want it to be a cut, copy, paste model in every place I visit. So I really wanted to dive deeper into the culture and to understand how people live there. What do they think about in terms of their place in the world, what their customs and the foods are like. Because, the food that you're served at home is very different than the food that you get in a restaurant, even in any cuisine.
Yes.
So that's why I started volunteering. And there are these whole organizations that offer tourism programs. So you're still a traveler, you're there for a couple of weeks, but then you stay with a host family or in a hostel. I stayed in pretty nice places. We had apartments, and we had a home chef who would come and cook all the meals for us. But then during the day, we would go and volunteer with the local communities, and then we would meet their staff who would become friends, and they would take us to places they like to go eat at. And on the weekends, we'll go to places that they like to go vacation at within their city or outside, in their communities. So I started seeing things from their point of view. And then I felt like, most people are kind of missing that whole perspective of travel. And that's why Go Eat Give was born. It was initially just a way for me to document where I had been and offer people this free resource. If you're going to anywhere in the world, you can just drop in the name of the destination, and it will give you some information about place you can volunteer or a place you can stay, which also supports the local community, or activities you can do even if you have a few hours. Or say you don't want to volunteer, if you want to just take some donations. A lot of times we have extra school supplies or toys that your kids are no longer using, and they can just fill a small bag of it and take it to a kid in another country, in Mexico or Cuba. And that small gesture, they will remember about the trip. They won't remember which fancy restaurant you took them to or theme park, but they'll remember meeting another kid their age that they gave their soccer ball to, and how that was received by them and how appreciative they were.
Wow. I think you're giving a gift back to the world that it desperately needs, which is human connection, especially in this time where it feels like social media has isolated us more than any other thing in human history.
Mm-hmm.
Where I've met so many people that have thousands of followers, tens of thousands of followers, and no friends. And I've also interviewed or met many people that have overflowing bank accounts but empty souls.
Hmm.
And from what I'm hearing, you seem to be in the opposite camp, the exact opposite of camp of that. Figure out some of these secrets of life. I want to ask about your ability to now capture those experiences. You talk very well, very eloquently. I mean, it's nice to listen to you as you relive some of these experiences, but being able to write that, you said you didn't start as a professional writer, but you asked, you humbled yourself and you asked, sometimes being rejected, sometimes being pleasantly surprised by the experience. How is that for you now today, now that you're published everywhere, one of the most successful food writers? Do you still get that same joy? Are you able to articulate in the way that you desire?
Well, Derek, the most joy I get is from talking to people who have never told their story before. And when I sit down with them and they have no idea who and how, what their story is going to get to, who's the audience going to be, and how it's going to impact their business. And it's more like a conversation like you and I are having, but we go deep. And I ask them about why they're doing what they're doing, what it means to them. Oftentimes it ends up in tears. And our conversations may last 3 hours long. And at the end of it, I have much more material than I need for a story. I'm not just doing an interview. I'm like there as a therapist and a friend and a learner. And when I have to sit down and look at my notes and create a short, most stories are like 600 words, from that and articulate it into a flowing story that is strong and gripping and powerful, and also encourages people to go and support this business. I think that's where I get the most joy out of seeing that end result of someone pouring their heart out to me and then turning it around into something that is absorbable by media, and it's still powerful enough. It's not just a marketing gimmick, right? It's their story. And then when they read it and they're like, I never thought this was my story. Like I could not never have put it together. And now that you told it, I feel like, wow, I had all this inside of me and this was the full picture that I'm able to now present it. So that's the most interesting part of my work. I think just writing. A lot of times the writing we do is also commercial driven, so that is not very exciting to me. But it's more about meeting the people, discovering places that have not been written about, and like this place I'm going to Mexico on Friday. No one has written about it. No one has been there. It's been so challenging to get information from them because they are indigenous communities who have never told their stories to the public, and they don't know how to write marketing campaigns.
Mhm.
So it's very difficult to get the information out of them, but that's the challenge I enjoy.
That's awesome. Just, that sounds. I know you said earlier, like this is people say this is a dream job, but I really, Stephen Covey. I'm sure you've read Stephen Covey. His eighth habit of highly effective people is to find your voice and help others find theirs. And that's something that I've been living by for years now. Um, I interchange the word voice with purpose.
Mhm.
Often find your purpose and help others find theirs. And I feel like I found my purpose, which is actually in alignment with what you're doing. You earlier mentioned finding your purpose. What exactly, if you were able to really boil it down, reduce it down, what is your purpose? What do you hope to achieve?
It's very simple, and I've thought about this for a long time, and I feel like everything I do boils down to one thing, which is connecting people across different cultures, communities, religions, races, ethnicities, social divides, whether it's through my writing or speaking or telling their stories or just bringing them together in a room or helping people plan a trip where they're connecting with the local community. So that's pretty much it. Connecting people.
See, told you we were aligned. Human connection. Human connection. I feel it's the greatest. Let me back up. Jack Ma from Alibaba said something years ago that stopped me in my tracks. And he said, if you want to experience the biggest opportunities, solve the biggest problems.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at that, earlier I mentioned about social media, but I truly believe that we have been taught that we are so different from each other,
Yes.
and to run away from difference, whereby it seems that you're traveling and saying, hey, yes, we have differences, but we're all human, and we have this thing that unites us, or certain things within communities that unite us, and there's beauty there. And also something that sticks out to me is that I believe that every person has the most interesting story in the world if you can shut up long enough to listen. And
Totally.
it seems that that's something that you have made a profession out of. I'm proud of you. I just wanted to say, I didn't have a question with that. I just want to say I'm proud of you for that. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think also to add to that, you can find something in common with every person in the world. I feel like, you may judge someone by the cover, and I've had these instances myself where someone I met, and we would start talking and I'm like shutting down because of all the things they're saying that I don't believe in, I don't agree with. But at the end of it, I find one thing that we have in common.
Wow. What is the most interesting trip or experience of a trip that you can recall that you want to share?
Oh, wow. There's so many. I mean, I don't even know where to start. The most experienced trip in what way? Oh, I mean, well, I'll tell you the story about this one. This was a luxury cruise that I took across West Africa. And to I've traveled a lot in Africa, but there were specific places I wanted to go, like Angola and Sao Tome, Benin, and I never had the opportunity. And there was this cruise that was offering for the first time that they would sail across just from Cape Town to um, Ghana. And so it was a 2-week cruise, but it's very luxurious. It's kind of the people who are retired or who have lots of money and they come as couples. I and and so I would not traditionally go on a cruise like that, on a vacation like that, but because of the route I went, and I was the only person traveling solo, probably the youngest person on the ship, most likely. There were no kids, and it just, there's a takes a little bit of comfort to travel solo, but especially traveling solo in an environment that's not normally designed for it. And on that ship, since I was solo, and they had these Michelin star restaurants, and all the restaurants were like, oh, the first night I went to the sushi place, and the server kept looking. He's like, oh, when is your partner coming? And I'm like, there's nobody coming, I'm just having dinner by myself. And so it felt awkward. And then I asked the staff, we had a butler appointed. I said, are there any other solo travelers here? If so, I would love to have dinner with them. So, I can also have company and meet people. And so my butler came up the following day and he said, there is this guy, he's 2 doors down from you. He's older and he has been coming on this cruise for many, many years. He recently lost his wife, and this is his first time coming alone. And he's been very depressed. He's been mostly in his cabin. And I can ask him if he wants to come have dinner with you. So he did agree to come, and we had dinner. And he was from the US as well. And during dinner, it's small talk about what you do, where do you live, what's your interests. And I found out that this particular guy's career was in importing, exporting weapons, um, like not just, everyday hunting weapons, but really serious weapons. And his work was mainly in countries that are questionable. And I was like, all your alerts stand up, and I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to associate myself with someone like that. And he's like, I'm living by myself, but I want to move. And I'm like, okay, so where do you want to move to? And he's like, oh, my daughter lives in Oregon. I'd like to move there, but they don't allow you to bring your guns. And I'm like, how many guns do you have, to not being able to move? He's like, oh, hundreds. I don't know. This is in his house.
Yeah.
And, so some of the things he was saying was making me very uncomfortable. But then at some point in dinner, we shifted the conversation about his personal life. And he had recently lost his wife. And he started talking about her. And there were tears in his eyes. And how he was opening up about how he feels as a human who has also had a loss, and about his only daughter and not being able to share that with her. And so at that point in time, it was a different person I was seeing in front of me. It was no longer that weapons dealer, but it was a normal human being who had recently had a loss. And it just helped me personally connect with him and not judge him just based on what he does professionally. And for the rest of the trip, he became like my good friend. Every time we would go out, on excursions, he will always come sit next to me. He'll always make conversations with me, help me take photographs. And I was thinking, I could have so easily written off this person, or in some extremes, people also shut down and form barriers that, you are on that side and I'm on this side of our viewpoints. So, you're bad, I'm good, kind of. And nothing like that happened. It's like, it is what it is. That's what you chose as your life path. That doesn't make you a good person or a bad person. It's just we have different values.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Truly. It reminds me of Bob Proctor, where he says that nothing is good or bad, only your thinking makes it so. And a part of the hardest challenge of being a human being is controlling, at least for me, controlling my thinking.
Yes.
Um, this is why I was so intrigued by the silence again, because you're left there with your thoughts. And you're right. Many people would look at that and instantly, as I was trying to search for the term, arms dealer was not the first thing that came to my mind. Like it wasn't a polished definition of his trade.
Mhm.
The movie with Nicolas Cage came to my mind. Uh, Lord of War, I believe is the name of it, where he's this arms dealer. And what came to my mind were the images of the results of those weapons being sold, especially in Africa, where you have, teenagers who are murdering each other and different things like that, at least from the movie. But anyway, that's the first thing that came to my
Yeah.
mind. So it's beautiful to see that you remained open enough to ask the type of questions. And I have this belief that every human being wants to be seen, they want to be
Hmm.
heard, and they want to become whatever it is that they imagine in their mind. And it feels like that's something that you're aligned with, where you're allowing people to be seen and to be heard so that they can become themselves in front of you. I think that's a beautiful gift
Hmm.
that you gave to that guy. Essentially being a
Thank you.
part. Yeah, you're welcome.
That's a very beautiful way of putting it. And I've always questioned that, why certain people open up to me, even when I don't facilitate that kind of conversation, but they really do feel comfortable in opening up. And the way you put it, it makes very, very good sense.
Just from the energy that I received from you of us talking, um, I believe that you put out that you carry that kind of aura where there's a realization that um, you have a disarming personality. It doesn't feel like I'm going to enter a conflict with you. And if we
Mhm.
did enter a conflict on a temporary basis because of a misunderstanding or something that I believe that you don't necessarily believe, that we can continue a conversation and move past it and get through it. That's the type of energy that I pick up from you. And I picked that up before I met you in person, by the way.
Wow.
Just watching you on TEDx.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So okay. You have traveled, I believe it said over 130 countries, seen so many things. I didn't ask you, do you have kids, by the way? I know you're
No,
married. No
no,
kids.
just my cat, Beato.
Okay. Beato. How did Beato come into this picture where you've written 5 kids' books about Beato traveling the world?
Well, I've always wanted to write something, and I've started and not completed many, many books, I would say. Um, but I was on assignment one at one point in time during the holiday season, and the story I was working on was teaching kids and young readers about the world and educating them about different cultures. So I went to do my research in different libraries and bookstores, talked to parents, and started looking for what's out there to teach kids. And I really didn't find much, um, like a coherent series of books. There was an occasional book about a Native American kid or a Jewish kid or African American kid, but there was not really something that would teach about their culture and how they live right now. And as I was researching the story with similarly, my computer, my cat, and my research work going on, my writing, it's like I looked at him and we could write these books since it doesn't exist out there. And we have these stories. There are kids that I have met during my travels that have left a strong impression on me. And the first one was in Greenland, which is a very remote destination. I was there about 15 years ago, and I stayed at a sheep farm with a family which had just the parents and a 7-year-old daughter. And they were living in really very remote areas. It's from their nearest neighbor was 40 minutes by boat. And by boat, meaning like going through glaciers and fjords. They
Wow.
had no phones, no satellite, no television, no internet. So it was as far removed from the world it could be. But yet, this 7-year-old girl, Ina, she spoke 5 languages and she communicated with me. She was acting like my tour guide. We went hiking and foraging. We watched the northern lights. She showed me around the sheep farm. And I felt like what maturity to have for a kid who has no way of communicating with the outside world. So that was the first story that Beato and I decided to write. And instead of me traveling in the book, I replaced myself with the cat because cats are curious. They cannot be identified as any race or color or religion or affiliation. So they can really assimilate with wherever they're going. And it's fun, to have a cat who's traveling and learning about different cultures. And he meets a local kid in each country who becomes his guide, and he learns about their food, the places, and their religion, the music, and all the different stuff. So it started with that Greenland book, and then the readership loved it. The parents, especially, loved that the children could hold on to a physical book and read about a place that exists right now, and this family exists right now. This is how they live, and they're escaping to that destination through the pages of the book and the photographs that I took from my trip, and they have all been converted into illustrations. And they're very vivid illustrations that almost look like a comic book, but it's all based on real photos.
I have a friend. Thank you for sharing that. I have a friend in Israel. Her name is Sarit, and I had met her at a retreat with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and
Mhm.
then I started coaching her. And I'm as soon as my team gets this video ready, I'm going to send this to Sarit because one of her greatest dreams, she has this concept similar to the way that you use the cat. She uses a penguin, and the penguin travels the world and has these different experiences because he has the ability to connect and see things that the normal tourist doesn't see.
Yes.
Incredibly similar to what you're talking about, where you don't want to go to the tourist spots. You want to see the real culture and experience the real people, the real
Mhm.
food, the real culture. What is this like? So just listening to you talk, I'm just smiling because it's going to make Sarit's heart pop. And
Mhm.
and you are now proof positive of something that I said before, which is you never know what gift you're going to give to the world when you start walking in your gift.
Mhm.
The fact that you decided to take this chance on yourself, listening to that small voice inside of you. And it sounds like at some point, because you kept listening to that voice got louder and louder and louder till it became louder than the voices that said you need a corporate job, you need the health benefits, you need the stable income, you need the whatever that thing is. And your dream talked to you more than the corporate entities trying to pull you away from that dream. And there are so many people, as I began with this, I told you there are so many people that I've run into
Mhm.
that they just don't have the courage to pull that trigger. And so I want to thank you just for that. When I told you when we began the Sauce of Life podcast, it's about people that take their life's experiences and turn them into ingredients that they can use to feed others. And just so you know, this is one small way that you're going to be feeding the dream of someone else who you've never met. This lady in Israel who wants to write about the bombs falling and provide kids some hope instead of them just being raised as the next generation where hatred flows through their veins for either side, whichever way it
Mhm.
goes.
Yeah.
So thank you for being you.
Thank you. And actually, one of my books is on Israel. And I'll be happy to share this. There's a page on there where it shows four boys playing soccer in the old city of Jerusalem, and each one of them comes from a different religion. And that's what I saw when I was there. It was not the war and the fighting. It was all these people living in close quarters for thousands of years, and they're living on their everyday lives in harmony. Yes, you quarrel with your neighbors, especially when you're too close in each other's way, but when you see all these kids, they're just playing, they're just having fun, and they are not looking at anything beyond that soccer ball and just the playtime.
That's beautiful. So Chet, I feel like that's one of the most beautiful things that exists on this planet is the innocence of children.
Hmm.
Being able to put that soccer ball in front of them. Like, for instance, I had never seen the World Cup. I'd never watched a full soccer game in my life.
Hmm.
And with all of the wars and everything happening and seeing everybody come to the United States and participate in the World Cup, and you see so many colors and shapes, just the variety of people, the sea of people that is watching this game. And it's like the rest of the world disappears
Yes.
when that happens. And you realize there's a connection between everybody, you know? So I'm looking forward to actually reading that book.
I'll be happy to send you some copies.
Yeah. And before I forget, when I'm back in Atlanta again, I would absolutely love to treat you to a meal, breakfast, lunch, brunch, dinner, supper, whatever meal. I would
Oh,
love
thank
to
you
share
so
a meal.
much. I would love to see you in person.
Yeah. Have you explored Atlanta or places in the United States the way that you've explored other countries?
Yes, I have. So I write the Explore Georgia guidebook,
Okay.
which takes me to every corner of Georgia. And I love the state. I've lived here for almost 30 years, and I've had the opportunity to meet people from all walks of life and people from all different parts of the world who have moved to Georgia and created businesses. But every part of this state has something beautiful to offer, and I'm just always discovering new. But Derek, during the pandemic, when the world shut down, and my schedule went from going to 25 countries a year to everything is canceled now for the rest of the year, and I cannot. All my travel is put on hold, and I was home for a couple of months and going crazy. And at that point, I was like, this is not me. I cannot just be here. So I started going to national parks and road trips. And I drove to 15 national parks that year across the US. And I drove across New Mexico, Colorado, Alaska, Utah, Nevada, South Carolina, like all so many different states, and stopping in like small towns, staying in eco resorts or just somewhere, that was not crowded, and going just really exploring this country like I had never done before, because I had the time, the world was closed, and it just my passion, like I told you, it's to meet people and travel, and I was just blown away. So I mean, that pandemic year was worked out for me in that sense that it allowed me to slow down and explore my own backyard.
I just took a mental note here of when the world closed, you opened up. If you haven't written that yet, written that book, written that article, written that whatever, I would actually very much be interested in reading it, because I imagine you specifically, the way that you see the world, and you have traveled, and you said 25 countries a year you were visiting.
Yes,
And I think I heard somewhere that you travel basically every other week.
yes,
And to go from that to, hey, the world has shut down, it's like taking a wild animal and suddenly putting it in this cage. And
right.
you said you went crazy. What was that for you? How was that experience? If you don't mind sharing it, just in case you haven't written this, what was that like?
Yeah, I haven't written what the experience was like, but it really, like you said, it felt like your legs have been chopped off and now you can't go anywhere. So in the meantime, I was like, okay, how do I satisfy my curiosity? So I would cook a different cuisine for every meal of the day, and it was, so you had a French breakfast, then you had a Thai dinner, and every meal was different cuisine. So I felt like I was still traveling, and it was a three-course meal with wine pairing. So you can
Wow.
imagine how much weight I gained during that time.
Your husband must have been a very happy man during that time period. Like,
But he
let's
was
go.
working from home, and it was like, okay, time to eat lunch. And by the way, we were having a bottle of rosé with lunch, and you know, so it was like in the short term, I was trying to fulfill that by just having my curiosity for food, writing recipes, still writing about food, but in a different way, more like talking to people virtually about what they're doing to deal with the crisis. And a lot of food businesses had reoriented to helping people. So I was still writing about those stories. But really, after 2 months, I was like, we're going to just drive to Chattanooga, which is like a 2 hour drive, hour and a half drive from us. Like, I need to go somewhere that is different. It looks different from where I am. And I don't know what's that about me. I just cannot be still. I'll have this constant desire for different settings. So we just went to Chattanooga. We went to Columbia, South Carolina. We went to the beach, and whatever was within driving distance. Every weekend we'll just get out and do something to keep that satisfaction going.
Wow. Nice. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. How has this been, the travel industry, has it had an impact on your relationship? And even, I guess, an even better question, let me rephrase that. How has you going after your dreams affected your relationship?
My relationship with my spouse or my.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I initially it was difficult because, like you said, having taking that risk is not easy. And when we were already married, when I took that made that change, and it was like, what, we are going from two income to a one income family. This is what you studied to be, and now we have to change. What your lifestyle is going to be like. So it was difficult initially to having that understanding of, yes, I'm not going to be bringing the same paycheck every month, and my employment pattern is going to be unpredictable. Um, but then over time, I think it was like a few months into it, my husband started realizing how happy I was, how I was with him in outside of work, where he saw me before in the evening, I'm complaining, I'm always like talking about others, and I'm like, I need a glass of wine and I don't feel like cooking, we're going to order takeout. To I went to being a person who's like, oh, so I met this wonderful people today and I'm writing this story and I cooked this dinner, and it's just like joyful. So if you have a partner you come back to and who is filling your life with joy and interesting stories, like, you would want them to be happy, and you would feel like this is the right career path, but also grateful for both of us. And in time he became to be the partner who would travel with me, and he would experience the places the way I do. And I think he has also completely changed now. Like, he only enjoys the way I travel and the way experience meeting people and having friendships. And it's not for him, it's not laying on the beach with a margarita. It's about going and talking to the people sitting in that hole in the wall bar and making friends with everyone, and the next thing you're invited to a barbecue in some random stranger's house. And then so he has become that person. I think it was always in him, but now he's allowed to do that more easily because of my lifestyle.
Wow. Awesome. The best trip that I've ever taken, I went to Fiji. I was having
Uh-huh.
some issues about different things in life, and I decided to grab a backpack and 3 pairs of shorts, 3 shirts, and my sandals and a notebook. And that's I went to Fiji for 5 weeks just like that. What Having traveled over 130 different countries, what is your, like, ultimate travel package? Like, if you travel, these are the things that you must have with you to have the best experience.
Huh. I'm not an easy packer, so unlike you, I don't think I can ever just go with a backpack and a couple of outfits. That's not me. I'm the kind of person who has supplies for any situation in life, and I have been in most situations in life because I've experienced so much travel. Delays can happen, things can shut down, or people can get sick or whatever. So I'm ready for anything. I'm ready for to survive without food and water, and so it's
Okay.
more, it's I think that's how it's been for me. Um, and I've been in situations where it is like, oh, I had a friend traveling with me, and it's like, oh, there's no water today at the airport and we are stuck here for 8 hours.
Oh,
And so it has happened. And we've been in situations where there's desert storms and there's no way out. So it's I think I'm more of a prepare for every situation rather than pack easy and figure it out kind of person. um, yeah, so I don't think there's anything such that would make me easier to travel.
okay.
I go to a lot of remote areas, so I guess I'm just ready for anything.
And you just carry, like, suitcases on top of suitcases into these
No,
remote
no, no,
areas?
no, no. I'm a effective packer. I have a carry-on that has all basic supplies that can be used in any situation in the world. And then I have a check-in for nice to have. If you get your clothes make there, then you will have some Instagram worthy clothes pictures to take.
Huh. Okay. I would love that list. My wife would travel more like you, where she wants to be prepared for any eventuality, everything. And it's nice to know, like, okay, I need to go find Sucheta, like, yeah, for whatever it is that happened. So I want to be respectful of your time, and I try my best to keep these at an hour. My question to you is, what is it that we should have talked about that we haven't yet, and what's next for you?
Huh. In terms of what's next for me, I recently started another initiative, which is called the Saffron Circle. So I met so many interesting women like myself who are from South Asian continent, and they have created a life in the United States, but they have also taken the risk to start something else that they were really passionate about, mainly in the culinary industry. So I have interviewed these women, I've written about it, and I felt like, again, going back to the power of connection, Derek, that if I could bring all these women together in a room and have them meet each other and coordinate some sort of collaborations or opportunities, or even help empower other women who are sitting in their home and thinking, hey, I make this amazing banana bread and I know everybody wants to, my neighbors want to buy it, my family wants to buy it, but I don't know how to start a business to be selling it commercially. And how can we inspire those women to come out of their shell and have them take a risk and have them get started to a point where they are living their passion, they're supporting their family income, and creating these new products that may also tie into their cultural heritage. So that's a project that I just started a few months ago. We just launched our website, Saffron Circle ATL, and I'm really excited about that. Um, so that's new for me, but I think for your audience and for what you do, um, I would just say, whatever you're thinking about, just give it an attempt. Don't just brush those ideas away. If you don't try it, you don't know if it works or if you like it or not. So my philosophy in life is, if it's some idea comes by your head, I give it a shot, and I don't ever reject it. I say, okay, let's try it. If it works, if it's meant to work, it will work out eventually. And if it doesn't, you at least tried it.
By the way, I'm actually working on something very similar to that. I have this company that I started, Waffles and Whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
The whatnot portion of this, and we can talk offline about this sometime, but the whatnot portion is actually finding those, what we call operators, those entrepreneurs who have a dream, but they have this fear because they've
Yeah.
never opened a restaurant. They don't know how to make money from it or make it successful, or they've always heard that restaurants are the hardest industry. Well, I'm building this entire platform and I turned it into a franchise already.
Mm.
Um, this is actually why I was in Atlanta for my last trip, trying to expand down
Oh.
into Atlanta. But
Mm-hmm.
being able to find those people and to wrap a proven system around them so that it makes the journey easier. I would love to discuss that with you further.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. See if there's ways that we can collaborate on this. So, our final question, and you kind of just answered it, but I have to ask it anyway. Two final questions. So, the first one is, if this were the only time that you and I ever spoke, or the only time that anyone from my audience got to hear you speak, what would you want us to walk away with?
Hmm. I would say I the advice I give to everybody is treat every day as your last day. And if there's anything that you have been thinking about doing, or that vacation that you always thought I'm going to take when I retire, when I save money, when the kids grow up, or there's a sport I'm going to learn or a language I'm going to learn, think about it. Today is your last day. And if you don't do it today, you will never learn it. You will never do that trip. you will never get to whatever you wanted. And generally speaking, people on their last day are not saying, I needed to buy a big TV or a big car. Or
Right.
it's generally an experience or a connection or forgiving someone or making, uh, reconnecting with an old friend or talking to a family member they haven't spoken to or doing something that really fulfills their spirit. So if take a moment to think about that and try to do it today.
You're amazing. Where can we find you? Where can the audience reach out and find you?
So the best place to find me is my website, which is my name, suchetarawal.com. And from there, you can read all the latest stories I have published. You can watch my TED Talks and get a link to my books.
Awesome. Sucheta Rawal, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so very much. And with that, I hope you have an amazingly blessed day.
Thank you, Derek. And I hope you do too. It's wonderful talking to you.